Okay, so my ring light is still broken and I got a new one, but you know, with my luck, it came with not the right pieces. So you gotta do what you gotta do. So if you could see my setup right now, so you gotta do what you gotta do. So I'm just going to, you know, do it what I have. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about my best and worst book. I'm going to be talking about my best books of 2021. I know I've been gone for a while, but I was working literally like all the month of December. Like I worked like 11 days straight and I had 1 day off, and then I worked 3 more days, and I basically, like, the month of December, I think I had like 7 days off in total, to be honest. So I was just working. I didn't have a lot of time to film, like, not a lot of time to read, not a lot of time to myself. That's fine, you know, I got that money, and you know, it was fine to have fun. Like, I have like my work friends and money, so it's fine. Then I'm going to be talking about my best books of 2021. In 2021, I read a total of 245 books. I did like top like 30. It was 34, but we're just gonna call it top 30. Then, so it's not in a particular order, and then once we get to top 10, it kind of is in order, but like really not really. So we're just gonna get started. So the first book I have at 34 is Can You Keep a Secret? The author I forgot. Sophie Kinsella. So this one I gave 4 stars to, but I really liked it. It's by the same author who wrote Confessions of a Shopaholic, which I've never read. I love the movie though. It's literally the story of my life, kind of, not really. But Can You Keep a Secret, I thought was really good. It's about this girl who, like, she believes that everyone has like secrets, and she has a bunch of her own, and one day on the airplane she gets drunk and there's a little bit of turbulence on the plane, and she thinks she's about to die, so she confesses all of her secrets to this guy next to her. She goes into work and ends up realizing that the guy is kind of like her boss. So, and then he, like, I don't know, I really liked their relationship. Like, it was like very different from like most romance books, like how he acted towards her. Like, he kind of was like always like smirking at her, always like messing with her. It was like really cute, and I really liked the book. The next book I have is Bone Crusher's Moon. This book is a YA book, and I actually really liked it. It was really fun when I first read it. I read in like spring. It was like the first YA book I read in a while, and like I loved it. It is about these people who like are fairies. They're like fae, but they're not really. And it's like these people, and basically they have like, they collect these bones and to these animals, and it really helps them out. And they have this ritual where once you turn a certain age, you kind of like mate with the guy under like the moonlight, but instead of mating him, you kill him. And this guy whose dad was killed in this ceremony, he ends up like kidnapping the girl, and things go on from there. It was like really good. Like I said, it was like a YA book that I hadn't read YA in a while, so when I read that book, it was like just amazing to me. The next book I have is The House at the Bottom of the Lake. This actually, like, if I were to put this into like an actual list, this would have been much higher. This book would make me realize that I really love short stories. It's a very short story about this house at the bottom of the lake. It was about these kids who go on their first date, and they end up finding this house at the bottom of the lake, and it ends up like, they end up like going to this house at the bottom of the lake like literally almost every day, and they end up like falling in love, and they can't tell if they're like falling in love with each other because of like for real, or if it's like the lake, and like there's some other stuff going on. And I really love the end. So it's kind of like horror, but not really. And like, I like the ending because it's kind of like a ending where it's like you don't know, like, it's like a, what is it called? Y'all know what the ending I'm talking about. The next book I have is Thrice 6 Venom. I love this book. This is a female bully romance story written by the one and only Penelope Douglas. Whatever Penelope Douglas puts their pen on, they eat. Like, okay, I love Penelope Douglas, one of my favorite romance authors, dark romance authors, because one thing about their dark romance is they eat it up expeditiously, you know? So I love them, and I love their work, and they didn't disappoint. And I want a Thrice, oh, this, yeah, it's a female bully romance. They're both like on like the soccer, they're on like some team, like the soccer team or something like that. And like one is like this pretty little rich girl, and this other one's like this girl who's like, you know, like a gang kind of thing. It's like Cheryl and Tony from Riverdale, but like good. Like literally their ship, exactly that. And I loved it. Like, I want more about the Thrice 6 Venom like brothers. Like, oh my gosh, I want like a whole series about them, because those brothers were fine. Okay, one thing about Penelope Douglas, they can write a man. Okay, the next book is Catherine House Dark Academia Excellence. This book is about this girl who goes to Catherine House, and you're basically following her semesters throughout Catherine House, and a lot of like weird things happen. It's a lot more to it. I can't really say much because I went to this book like not knowing anything. I was pleasantly confused and not really aware of what was going on. I made made everyone read it for like my Dark Academia book club that I ran longer than like any other book club. It didn't last, but I still ran it long. And I love this book. It was so fun, and anyone who doesn't like it doesn't understand Dark Academia. The 28th book I have is Emma. I got into Jane Austen this year, and Emma was everything to me. Basically, Emma is about this girl named Emma, I forgot her last name, named Emma, and she is the it girl. You know, she's rich, she's the it girl, and her best friend ends up falling in love with she's trying to hook her best friend up with this guy, but then a guy, like, he's not really feeling her. So then her best friend kind of ends up falling in love with this other guy that's like really in her life, and like Emma is like falling in love with him, and it's basically like Clueless. Like, it literally is Clueless. Like, Clueless was inspired by Emma, and Clueless was like my favorite movie growing up, so reading this book is literally like so. The next book on this list is Ace of Spades. Of course, it's on here. It should be higher. Like, if this was like an actual like list, this will be a lot higher. I feel like it would be like actually number 11, but I was just writing stuff down because I really wanted to hurry up and like film this video, so I didn't put it in order. But just know that this book is actually higher. I'm just lazy. So Ace of Spades is a Dark Academia book. It is a book by a black author. It's about these two black kids who go to this predominantly white school, and they suddenly start to get targeted by this thing called like Ace or something like that, and they end up like coming together, and it's basically like Blair and Dan, and it's queer, like both characters. It is highly amazing, and I love the book. Dark Academia Excellence. Literally this year, like literally 2021, I was blessed with Dark Academia books. Like, I only hope that 2022 is just as good. And if you like are like watching my channel for a while, and I've been saying like I was gonna do a Dark Academia reading vlog, it's still coming. If you guys want it, let me know. I still want to do a Dark Academia reading vlog. I still have those books. I haven't read any. Like, let me know. Okay. The next book is For Your Own Good. This one is another like Dark Academia book, but instead it follows more so the teachers and the students, and it's about this someone died. Someone, I can't remember, because a lot of people died in the book. I can't remember who died first, but somebody dies, and they start to like someone dies, and a lot of stuff happens. Okay, and it's about this teacher who's like a stickler, and he's like, he honestly, like, if you like annoy him as a student, he's gonna be really hard on you, and there's this particular student that he's really hard on, and so it follows a lot of things. I'm not explaining this good, but just know it's satire, and it's Dark Academia, and it is funny. And if you like satire, I love satire. It's like my favorite type of humor. It's funny, and it's excellent. The next book I have is Shipa Magic, and this one is an adult fantasy. I got into Robin Hobb this year, and I highly love that I did. Like, I am so proud of myself. Her books are so great, and this book is about this girl who wants this ship. She wants this ship, but it's only passed down to like the men in her family, and because she doesn't have any brothers, she thinks it's going to be passed on to her, but it's actually passed down to her brother-in-law, and it causes a lot of like drama and things to happen because these ships can kind of like talk, and she like basically like was raised on these ships, so she knows like the ins and outs of them, and it's just so good. Like, it's so good. Next book I have is This Is How You Lose a Time War. Of course, it is about these two people who are basically like arguing, like not arguing, but they're like, I can outdo you, through like letters, and they're like using time to like try and outdo each other and to like compete with each other, and they end up falling in love over time, and it is very excellent. It's a short story. It's not horror, but it's a short story, and it was excellent. I loved it, and it was so fast. I read like on a short shift of work I had. The Southern's Book Club Guide to Slaying Vampires. This will be higher. This will be higher if I made this list correctly. But this one, if you don't know, it's like a very popular book. It's about these moms who have this book club, and they end up finding out one of the guys that they like really like in their neighborhood is actually a vampire. And they're trying to convince their husbands that, well, first of all, the girl, she has to convince all of her friends is a vampire, and then on top of that, she has to convince they have to convince their husbands is a vampire. And I really like it because I feel like it's a social commentary on a lot of things. It's a social commentary on women and how they're never believed, and there's also a black character in this book, and in the black neighborhood these vampires attacked first, and I believe it's a social commentary on how no one cares about black families until the, like, you know, non-black families are or POC in general. Nobody cares about POC, but mostly black families. Nobody cares about black families until other families are affected, and then suddenly everybody wants to care. I don't know if that Grady Hendrix intentions, but I love Grady Hendrix as an author. He's one of my favorite horror authors. I've read like all of his books. I have one more book to read, not counting the newest book that's coming out. And then I read like all of his books, which is, I cannot say about like any other author. So then we have The Good Sister. This one, I don't talk about this one a lot. This one is a thriller. Okay, it's about this girl, and she ends up like, her sister wants to become pregnant and she can't become pregnant, so she decides that she wants to become pregnant for her sister. So she ends up like meeting this guy, like end up like falling in love. It's a thriller. You're probably like, what the hell? I don't really know how to explain it without like giving away spoilers, but basically it's really good. They end up going like through this childhood, and their mom, who's like a narcissist, and you're like, whoa, their childhood was freaking crazy, you know? And it was, the book is crazy, the book is wild. It's a time, honestly. It's so hard explaining like books that like you can't really explain too much about, because like one detail will give too much away. It's a crazy book. It's a wild time, okay? Just know that. If you want a wild thriller, definitely that. The next book I have is It. I finally read It. I really got into Stephen King this year. I really want to read like one Stephen King book a month, or like a few Stephen King books a month, because like once I read one I have to read like 7. But in December I didn't really like read anything, so I couldn't keep up with that. So this month I'm gonna try to keep up with that. But I've just been reading Stephen King, and I'm sort of a fan. I mean, he has his own like shelf here. So yeah, I read It. It is like one of my all-time favorite horror movies, and I finally read the book and I love it. I want to reread it, and it's 1,000 pages. It's 1,000 pages, and after I finished it I said, wow, I want to reread this so I can annotate it. So probably this year I'll probably reread it, maybe for Halloween. Maybe I'll try to do like in 24 hours. No, absolutely not. I'll try to reread it this year because I loved it. I love the movie. I love the characters. I feel like this is like one of the very few Stephen King books that it makes sense as to why this book was 1,000 pages, because it follows like the kids when they were younger and when they're older. It's somewhere. So the next book I have is People We Meet on Vacation, and I gave this book, why am I telling you what I gave? People We Meet on Vacation, I really liked it. It is about, if you think you can see my dirty room, no you cannot, okay? Anyways, back to where we were. People We Meet on Vacation. This one is about two friends who go on vacations all the time, and they stop going on vacations for some reason, and they go on like one last vacation because they've gotten older and things happen. I really like this book. This is my first Emily Henry book, and I have a theory that whatever your first, like if you actually like her as an author, that whatever your first Emily Henry like romance book is, because she's written everything that isn't romance, that is your favorite book. Like that is going to be the top tier, because I read Beach Read after this, and like I loved it, but it wasn't People We Meet on Vacation, you know what I'm saying? Like this was just that girl. I'm excited for Book Lovers, but at the same time I'm not excited for it for some weird reason. I don't know. The next book I have is Shadow and Ember. This is the first book in the Kingdom of Flesh and Fire. I don't know why Jennifer L. Armentrout does the things that she does. Like, why did she name this series that? I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was really good. It kind of has me hyped for the next book in the From Blood and Ash series, but at the same time not really, because I'm really disappointed in that series. So we'll just see how it goes as the book goes on, I guess. I don't know. Which stay on the lookout for my most disappointing books of 2021. The next book I have is Fangs. This is a graphic novel I read. I read it because like everyone was hyping it up. Everybody loved it. So it's about this vampire and this werewolf that like falls in love, and it's a graphic novel. And like I loved it. It was so funny. It was like the perfect graphic novel for me. Like when I think of like a graphic novel that like will represent me, it would be that book. Like everything. The next book I have on this list is Sweet Hand. This is a romance book. It is about this girl who is enemies with this guy, and do they fake date in this book, or do I think that every book I read this year is a fake dating book? Something happens, like they have to go to a wedding together because they're mutual friends like getting married, and I really liked it. The next book is Pretty Girls. This is a thriller by Karen Slaughter. I finally got around to reading Karen Slaughter books. Pretty Girls is about this girl who goes missing, and you follow her two sisters years after that. And then one of the sisters' husbands is like killed brutally, and they start to think that like the deaths are connected or something is connected, and it was really, really good. I like this one more than I like The Good Daughter, because The Good Daughter isn't even on this. Like The Good Daughter was good, but the Pretty Girls, I think because Pretty Girls was my first Karen Slaughter book, and I was just like, wow, this book is messed up. But I kind of got bored towards the end. It was good. Okay, the next book I have is The Prison Healer. This book really surprised me. It's a YA book. Like I said, I don't really read as much YA anymore, and so this one really surprised me because I just was not expecting to like it as much as it did. It's about this girl who like lives in the prison, and there's like this whole prison system, and there is this queen who is like taken to prison, and she has to go into these trials, and the main character, who's a prison healer, has to heal her, but she literally can't. So she's like, okay, well, I'll do it, because she's an empath. She's like, okay, I'll do the trials instead. And she actually does the trials, and some other things happen. I really liked it. It takes place in a prison the entire book, which usually when a book takes place in like a prison, like they get broken out by like the end, or broken out like towards the middle or whatever. But literally throughout the entire book, it was just so good. I just wasn't expecting it. Like, I literally was reading it during the power outage, and I was just like, oh, I'm just reading this book just because I wanted the Fairy Loot edition. And then I read it and I loved it, and then I had to hunt down the Fairy Loot edition, which I had the Fairy Loot edition for the second book, which I need to hurry up and get and read so I can find out if I want to have the Fairy Loot edition of the third book. So then I have After I Do, which is a Taylor Jenkins Reid book, and this made me realize that I love Taylor Jenkins Reid contemporary romances, but her historical books, I am not it. Like The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo was like good, but it just, I don't know, it wasn't all there for me. And then like Daisy Jones and the Six was good. I'm gonna watch the show, and the show will probably be like one of my favorite things ever, but the book just was not doing it for me. And her newer book, I just was not reading. But I read her old romances and they ate. Okay, I read her other one, but After I Do just ended up being like that one for me. It is a second chance romance, and it's about this couple who decides like that like their romance just isn't there anymore, so they decide to take a year off from each other. And it has everything I wanted in this book, like jealousy. Oh my gosh, there's a scene where like she has this other guy in their house, and then the husband rides by and he's like, who's in my house? And the jealousy, it was just good. It was just like everything you would want in a second chance romance. Like, so amazing. Taylor Jenkins Reid, please go back to romance, please. I'm begging you. 13, The Spanish Love Obsession. This book is about this girl who needs a date for her wedding, and this guy, Aaron Blackford, the guy, he's like telling her like, I'll be your date, I'll be your date. She's like, no, I hate you, like I don't want you to be my date. And then she ended up finally caving and going on this date. I saw my coworker reading one day, and I was like, oh, what are you reading? Because I can always ask, because I read so much. Like, if it's, as long as it's under fiction, I probably have read it or I know about it. So I feel comfortable like asking people what they're reading, especially girls, because most girls are reading romance, like, you know. So I was like, what are you reading? It was actually The Spanish Love Obsession, and like I ended up talking to her about it, and it like sparked this like kind of friendship, you know, between the two of us. So yeah. And then I have Lilac, which is a dark romance book, and this one I loved. Okay, like I wanted to put it in my top 10, but I was like, I don't know, I might reread it. It's about this girl, and it's about a big reason why I like don't really know how I feel about it is because it's about a black author, and the main character is not black. And it's like, I guess not every black author has to write like a book about black characters, but it's just like I would like to see that representation. And I feel like this book came out like recently, like 2017, 2018, 2019, you know, one of these years. And I feel like from like 2017 up, if you are writing about a non-black character as a black author, then why are you? Because at that point we were like begging for them. And it's like, I just have some feelings about that, you know. Like I just feel like the authors BB reads, her books are good, but they're always about white people, like white main characters. And it's like, I want to read about black main characters. You're a black author, like, and I feel like a lot of black authors feel like they have to, so they can get like a wider audience, or because they think that like people won't read their books because it's by a black author. But it's like, black authors now are doing a thing. And like dark romances, I love dark romances. I want to read one about a black character, so stop writing about these little white girls if you're not white. You know what I'm saying? Fighting for my life for dark romances with black characters. I might have to just write my own. But anyways, it's a really good book. It's about this girl who is like a drummer or something, and her favorite band, like one of the drummers like dies, and so her favorite band is like doing auditions for like new drummers, and she ends up like going, and they end up like putting her in the group, and the group hates her at first. It's like an enemies to lovers romance, and it's like a reverse harem, because you know me, you know I love my reverse harems, girl. Yes, it was so good. The smut was good, everything about the book was good. It's just the fact that the author is black writing about white girls. Like, I'm sitting here like, I do not care about the fact that she has red hair. She's like, this is amazing body, and like I don't care, make her black. Anyways, now we're into my top 10. So this is like where it's like low-key, like I did actually like, this is like you know, accurate, you know what I'm trying to say. So for 10 we have Dolores Claiborne. I read this book this year. Before I even got into like my Stephen King era for real, I read this book and I loved it. It's about this girl named Dolores who she's like talking about her life kind of, because she's being sent to jail because of the murder of her husband, and they suspect she murders this lady that she took care of. And the story was just so good. Like, you follow like when she, like, her husband and why she killed him, and then the woman she took care of, and if she killed her or not, which she didn't. And I just really loved it. And one reason I really loved it is because it reminded me of my grandma. My grandma's name is Dolores, and my grandma also was a caretaker of old people, even at like an older age. Like, she was like literally 65, like taking care of older people. And it's like, girl, you know. And so also she just really reminded me of my grandma, like the way that she talked. Like, my grandma had a sailor's mouth, okay. She just reminded me of my grandma. And I love the book in general, like outside of the fact that, you know, she reminded me of my grandma. Like, I thought it was a great book, and I really was not expecting this from like Stephen King. It's like his least talked about book, so I really didn't think I would like it. And it's actually one of my top 10 like favorite Stephen King books, which if you want to see like more Stephen King books, I can do like my collection, I can do like hauls more often, I can do like ranking the books that I've read so far, I can do dedicated reading vlogs. Let your girl know. So number 9 is Dune. I read Dune this year and I really liked it. I really didn't expect to like it because I've been kind of all year I've been scared of like getting more into actual adult books that don't like have a huge focus of romance. And I read this book and I loved it. Dune is about this family who is sent to another planet, and who is like sent to another planet, and it causes like a lot of things to happen once they're sent to that planet. And obviously it's like more to it. I read it because I want to read it before I watch the movie. It's like one of my favorite things now. I still have to read the series, but it really talks a lot about like philosophy, and my favorite thing in like adult fantasy books is politics, but it really discusses like philosophy and like why people think the way they think. And a lot of the reasons why people hate the book is like things that are like explained. Like, a lot of people hate the book because it's about white savior, when that is, once you read Dune Messiah, which I have read, once you read Dune Messiah, you realize that like that's the point of the book, is about savior, like having these saviors, and what do you do when these saviors like disappear or things like that. And it's like, it's so much bigger. Like, a lot of the issues that people have with this book or the movie is things that was explained in the second book or explained in the first book, because the movie only takes place in half the book. So it's like a lot of the things that people have issues have, it's like you didn't finish the series and you're having these issues, and like that was the point. And I just loved it. And I'm a Dune writer now, so get at me. Anyway, so number 8 is Murderbot Diaries. The first few books I really did love. I did kind of start to get bored towards the end because it's like nothing's really happening, and I can only go so much without things happening. But I love Murderbot. I think that they are so funny, very entertaining, like very funny. It's just like towards the end of the series I did kind of get bored. That's why it's like a little bit lower. I feel like Dune should be higher and this one should be lower. I didn't put that much thought into it, okay? And it's just about this robot who like hacked his own system so he can like think more like a human, but not really. And he's just very funny, and it's very quick, very easy. I read all of them in like 2 days. Next book I have is Bitter Heat. You want to talk about second chance romance? This book is the daddies of all daddies, okay? This book is that book. Like, best romance book I've read all year. Not really, because there's romance books that are higher, but best like second chance romances, like, period, okay? This book is about this girl who like she got divorced from this guy, and her family is like the richest family, like they're billionaires, whatever. And she got divorced from this guy because she thought that he wanted her for her money. And his mom is dying, and she stayed in contact with, his mom's not dying, but she's like 6, and she stayed in contact with his mom. So she ends up like, something ends up happening, and she ends up going to the hospital, and he ends up being there, and they go back to like this house they had because of a snowstorm, and they end up like reconnecting, and like some things happen. And it's dark romance excellence. If you like men that are messed up in the head, like kind of like not dark romances, but like a lot of angst, a lot of dark stuff going on, definitely read this. The author I hope the author is writing the sequel, because I need it yesterday. It was supposed to come out in 2019. It didn't come out then. Thinking about how I could have read Bitter Heat and then the next book, but things happen. So whatever. The next book I have is Finley Diamond. I love this book. This book is about this girl who, this woman who, like, everything, she's like down in life, you know, like her husband's trying to take her kids, she can't write that book, and she's just not really killing it, you know. And then someone over, she's talking to her agent about like this book idea she has, and someone thinks that she's like a hitman. So then they, like, you know, ask her like kill this person. So, you know, stuff happens from there. And I really love this book, and it was just so good. It was funny. I made my sister read it, and if you think I'm a harsh reader, my sister does not give anything does not give a lot of 5 stars, okay? Like, she mostly hates a lot of books that she reads, and she ate this up. I can only say that about very many books. So that's how you know that Finley Diamond is good. I cannot wait for the sequel, because that ending, the sequel should be coming out like next month anyways, so I actually need to be pre-ordering that. But yeah, number 4. How did I go from number 6 to number 4? There's a number missing in here. That makes so much sense. We're just gonna pretend like that wasn't messed up. So, The Love Hypothesis. This book I liked. A lot of people, I was kind of scared because it is whatever that ship name is from Star Wars. I've never seen those movies. I have watched Star Wars, like the first few ones. I could not get past them. They were like so boring. Don't come for me. But Rilo, yes, a Rilo shipper. I don't care. The fan fiction to published book pipeline is very thin, and I would like to be a part of it. You know, if you see me like writing a fan fiction and it becomes published, don't even judge me, because the pipeline is so thin, and I love it. Like, literally every book that I've almost every book that I read that was a fan fiction that got turned to a real novel has 8, and it took over all of 2021. Like, so many books. So I'm not even judging, you know. Like, I thought it was good. I don't care. It is about this couple who, I bought this book for my best friend, who we met, like, my best friend from, well, she's my best friend, but we met at work. But like, our friendship is like, we're actually best friends, so I don't like to call her my work best friend or like my friend from work, because we're literally actually best friends. But I bought this book for my best friend, and I bought her The Cruel Prince. I literally only bought her like my 2 favorite books, and I've been trying to, like, so she can read them. I got them for her for Christmas, and I can't wait for her to finish. Maybe I'll like do a vlog and like of her like reaction once I finally get her to read her, or like a video or something for the people. Anyways, yeah, this book is about this girl who, she's totally over this guy, but her best friend wants to date him, but her best friend doesn't want to ruin their friendship or hurt her feelings. So she comes up with the, like, so she sees her best friend in the hallway one day, so she kisses this guy. It might be Adam Driver, I forgot his name, but yeah, so she like kisses him, and he actually ends up like, he's like this teacher that everyone hates, and everyone's like, oh, he's so mean, he's such a stickler, blah blah blah. And she like they end up like fake dating, and they end up like obviously falling in love with romance. So it's like, what do you expect? Next book I have, and things have got worse since we last spoke, and this one I really was surprised by. It was like really good. It was a horror novella. It's about this girl who is selling this apple peeler, and she's selling it online. It's like set in like the early 2000s, and someone else ends up like clicking on it, and they kind of start like this romance out of that, and things end up getting crazy from there. And I loved it. It was great. It was amazing. It was fantastic. And the second book I have is The Last Graduate, which we should have known. The sequels of 2021 were just not it. The Last Graduate definitely beat the allegations, though. It beat the horrible sequel allegations. I don't know about the rest of the sequels, but The Last Graduate was not that. Top 5-star read, ended on a cliffhanger, of course, but it was just so good to me. Like, it was that, girl. Obviously I can't talk too much about it because it's a sequel. The Daily Education is like one of my top favorite books. Like, it's one of my top favorite books in general of all time, and The Last Graduate just did not disappoint. Like, how many people can say that like their favorite sequel to their book just ate? Like, The Cruel Prince, The Wicked King ate, The Queen of Nothing ate. Like, I've never been disappointed in my life by my favorite series. How many people can say that? Oh, well, actually, I just thought about From Blood and Ash, so. Then the first book on this list is The Maddest Obsession. I think about this book every day. This is the second book in the Maid series, or the Maid Men, or the Men series, or whatever the fuck it's called. And it is about this well, it's about this, like, it's about like the whole series, like a mafia series, and this one follows this guy who like is obsessed. Like, I love the obsessed boy trope. I'm gonna be doing recommendations for y'all. I'm hoping for like February I do like recommending like romance books, hopefully like towards them. So I'm gonna be doing a boy obsessed trope recommendations, and you better believe this one is on here because I love guys who are obsessed. Like, if my future man is not obsessed with me, he will not be my future man. This guy is so obsessed with the main character, he had to go to therapy. Where do you see that at? Where do you see that at? I really love this book. He was like obsessed with her. Like, it just was so good. I can't even tell you what this book is about because I don't want to ruin like the surprise of it or like the amazingness of it. But yeah, it's about this guy. He's like a dirty cop, I guess, and he like he has to go away for, he hooks up with the main character, and he leaves for a few years. She obviously has to get remarried because her husband before that died, so she has to get remarried, and like he ends up coming back and like spark this romance. And I don't even like the cheating trope. I didn't give a damn about the cheating trope in this book, okay? Didn't care. I ate this book up, okay? And he's just like so obsessed with her, and it's I can't even communicate how good this book is, but it is that good. So yeah, that's it for this video. That is my best books of 2021. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I'm going to be doing a worst books and a disappointing. I feel so behind because I haven't been watching BookTube or anything like that, but I noticed everyone else did their best and worst videos like in like December, and now I'm doing mine in January, and I feel I'm already late because I'm already like, you know, so I just feel late to the party. So hopefully you guys like still enjoy this video, and I'll see you guys in my next video, which is my worst. So yeah.